All right, today we're cracking open a case file that's thousands of years old, but believe me, it is still red hot. We're talking about the fall of the ancient city of Jericho. It's this incredible story of faith, trumpets, and a victory so seemingly impossible it has absolutely fascinated people for centuries. The walls came tumbling down. Just think about that phrase. It's so powerful, so dramatic, it paints one of the most famous pictures in the entire Bible. It's an image that's become a go-to metaphor for any massive barrier that just spectacularly collapses. But here's the million-dollar question. Is it just a story, or did it really happen? That's what our investigation is all about. For more than a century, archaeologists have been digging through the dust of ancient Jericho, and what they've found has sparked this huge debate. So let's grab our detective hats and dig into the evidence together. So where do we start? Well, every good investigation begins with the initial report. And in this case, our main source is the account laid out in the book of Joshua. We've got to understand the story first. As you can see, this isn't some vague legend. The Bible gives us a ton of specific details to work with. We've got spies, a river that stops flowing, a 7-day march, and then, bam, the walls fall. The city gets torched, nobody's allowed to take any loot, and just one family, Rahab's, makes it out. These are the claims, the very specific clues, that archaeologists have been testing for over 100 years. Okay, so we've got the story. Now let's meet the first investigators on the scene. Starting way back in the 1800s, archaeologists began digging into this ancient mound in Jericho called Tel es-Sultan, searching for cold, hard facts. And let me tell you, the history of this investigation is a total roller coaster. Early digs, pretty inconclusive. Then, in the 1930s, this guy John Garsting makes a huge announcement. He says he found Joshua's fallen walls, and he dates the destruction to around 1400 BCE. That date lines up perfectly with the biblical timeline. Case closed, right? Nope. In the 1950s, Kathleen Kenyon shows up with more modern techniques and basically says, "Hold on, everybody, Garstang got it wrong." And this is where the real archaeological battle begins. You have Garstang in one corner saying, the Bible is right, with a destruction date of 1400 BCE. In the other corner, you have Kenyon saying, nope, the Bible is wrong. She argued the city was destroyed way earlier, around 1550 BCE. That's a 150-year difference. Her big reason? She didn't find a specific type of fancy imported pottery. Because it was missing, she concluded there was no city there for Joshua to even conquer, and for decades, that was the final word. But here's the thing about a good mystery. A case is never really closed forever. Years after Kenyon passed away, her super detailed field notes were finally published, and that meant a whole new generation of investigators could come in, blow the dust off the old case file, and take a fresh look at her evidence. This is where archaeologist Bryant Wood steps into the story. And he asked a really simple but brilliant question. Was it really fair to say the story is wrong based on the absence of something? Especially the absence of expensive, imported luxury goods in what was, let's be honest, a pretty small-time backwater town? And this is where the plot just thickens like crazy. Wood didn't just disagree with Kenyon. He used her own data against her. He pointed out that a lot of the local, everyday pottery she found was actually from the 1400s BCE, fitting Garstang's timeline. He also found a carbon-14 date from a piece of charcoal that dated the destruction to 1410 BCE. And then, the real kicker, he found in Kenyon's own notes a description of a thick layer of fallen red mud bricks piled up at the base of the wall. The tumbling down walls. But maybe the most fascinating piece of circumstantial evidence is the grain. Both Garsting and Kenyon found tons of it in these huge storage jars, all of it burnt. Now, this suggests two really important things. First, the city fell fast. If it was a long siege, they would have eaten all their food. Second, the attack probably happened in the spring, right after the harvest. And guess what? Both of those details line up perfectly with the story in the Bible. You know, this case isn't just about walls and pottery buried in the dirt. There's a human story here, too. So let's turn our attention to the key witness from the biblical account, a woman named Rahab. Now, listen to what she says here. This isn't just small talk. Rahab, who's a total outsider in her own city, makes this incredibly profound statement of faith. Just based on the stories she's heard about the God of Israel, she makes a life-or-death decision to side with the invaders. It's a huge risk. I mean, just look at her character arc. It's unbelievable. She starts as a marginalized person in a doomed city. Then, Through this one single act of faith and courage, she not only saves her entire family, but she becomes a celebrated hero. She's even listed in the family tree of King David and in the New Testament of Jesus himself. It's this amazing story of redemption right in the middle of a war. So we have the biblical story, the big archaeological debate, and this incredible personal story of Rahab. But just when you think you've got a handle on the case, there's one more twist, and it's a big one. Okay, to get this next part, we need a quick crash course in Archaeology 101. It's called stratigraphy. Basically, think of the ground like a giant layer cake of history. Each layer represents a different period of time. The deeper you dig, the older the stuff you find. Simple, right? So get ready for this. A brand new theory from Lorenzo Negro and Brian Windle suggests that maybe, just maybe, everyone was focused on the wrong crime scene. They're proposing that Garstang, Kenyon, and even Wood were all arguing about the wrong layer of dirt. This could totally change the game. This new theory says the Jericho that Joshua conquered did exist, but it was a later city, called City V, built on the ruins of the one everyone was arguing about. So why is there so little evidence for it? Well, the top layers of an ancient mound get battered by wind and rain for thousands of years. The theory is that most of City V just eroded away. And those collapsed walls Kenyon found? They might not belong to the heavily debated City IV at all, but to this later, almost vanished City V. Mind-blowing, right? So after over 100 years of digging, debating, and re-examining evidence, where does that leave us? What can we actually say about the fall of Jericho today? What's the verdict? Well, this is what's so fascinating. Despite all the arguments about the exact when, look at how many details in the what and how line up. We have a confirmed, strongly fortified city. We have evidence of collapsed mud brick walls. We have signs of a very short siege. The attack seems to have happened in the spring. There's clear evidence of a massive fire. And the city seems to have been left unplundered, just like the story says. The physical evidence on the ground seems to echo the biblical narrative in some really stunning ways. In the end, the Jericho mystery is still very much alive. It's this incredible intersection of faith, history, and science, and it still leaves us with more questions than answers. Is it the memory of a miracle, a timeless story of faith, or is it an archaeological puzzle that we're still piecing together? Maybe the real power of Jericho isn't just in what we can prove, but in the enduring mystery itself.